The transport ship descended through thick purple clouds, and Kai-Chin pressed his face against the viewing port. Below, the Draken homeworld stretched out like a sea of volcanic glass and crimson stone. His hands trembled slightly, but not from fear of the planet. He was trembling from excitement. "You should be terrified," said Ambassador Torres, standing behind him. "The Draken don't exactly welcome visitors with open arms." Kai turned and smiled, his thin frame barely filling out his diplomatic uniform. "That's why I'm here, isn't it? To help them understand us better." The ambassador sighed. At 16, Kai was the youngest member of humanity's first diplomatic exchange. The boy was brilliant, no question about that. He had published 3 papers on xenobiology before most humans his age finished school. But brilliance wouldn't help him if the Draken decided humans were too weak to bother with. The landing was rough. Everything the Draken built seemed designed to shake and rattle, as if gentleness was an insult to their engineering. When the doors opened, heat rolled into the ship like a living thing. Kai stepped out onto the platform and immediately started sweating. 3 Draken waited for them. They stood nearly 3 meters tall, their scales shifting between deep red and bronze in the harsh sunlight. Wings folded against their backs like enormous leather cloaks. Their eyes were golden and sharp, watching the humans the way a cat watches mice. "Welcome to KRYX Prime," the largest one said, his voice like grinding stones. "I am War Chief Drucker. Try not to disappoint us too much." The first week passed in careful meetings and tense dinners. Kai watched everything. He noticed how the Draken moved, how they spoke, how their scales changed color with their emotions. He filled 3 notebooks with observations. The other Draken mostly ignored him, focusing their attention on the larger, more imposing members of the human delegation. That changed on the 8th day. Kai had wandered away from the diplomatic quarters, following a strange sound. It was singing, but unlike anything he had ever heard. Deep and resonant, it made his chest vibrate. He found himself in a circular chamber carved from black stone. 7 Draken sat in a circle, their scales glowing faintly as they sang together. He knew immediately he had made a mistake. This was something private, something sacred, but the beauty of it held him frozen in the doorway. The singing stopped. 7 pairs of golden eyes turned toward him. "Human," one of them hissed, "you dare interrupt the flame meditation?" Kai's mouth went dry. I'm sorry. I heard the sound, and I didn't know." They rose as one, and Kai felt very small and very far from home. Within an hour, he stood before the Draken Council in chains. Ambassador Torres was arguing frantically, but the Draken were not listening. "The flame meditation is sacred," Matriarch Kesria declared, her ancient scales pale as moonstone. "No outsider has ever witnessed it. The law is clear." "He's a child," Torres shouted. "He made a mistake." "He is your diplomat," Drucker rumbled. "You sent him to represent your species. He must face the consequences, as any Draken would." "What consequences?" Torres demanded. Kesria's eyes gleamed. "The Dragon Arena. At dawn, this human will face a warrior of our choosing. If he survives, his transgression is forgiven." The chamber erupted in human protests, but the Draken Council had spoken. Kai was led away to a small cell beneath the arena. He could hear the crowd gathering above, excited by the promise of entertainment. No outsider had ever survived the arena. The betting had already begun on how quickly he would fall. But Kai didn't panic. Instead, he sat cross-legged on the stone floor and opened his notebook. He had spent a week studying the Draken. Their culture valued strength above all else. But what exactly did strength mean to them? Physical power, certainly. But was that all? He thought about the flame meditation, about the discipline it must take to achieve such perfect harmony. He thought about their architecture, their art, their careful rituals. There was more to the Draken than just brute force. Ambassador Torres visited him that night, her eyes red from crying. "I'm so sorry, Kai. I'll keep negotiating. Maybe we can—" "It's okay," Kai said quietly. "Really? How can you say that? They're going to kill you tomorrow." Kai looked up at her, and there was something calm in his eyes that she didn't expect. "Maybe. Or maybe I'll teach them something." Isn't that why we came here? To learn from each other. She left shaking her head, certain she would never see the boy alive again. Above them, the arena waited in darkness, and the drakens sharpened their claws. Dawn broke over the arena like a wound in the sky, all crimson and gold. Kai was led through dark tunnels carved into volcanic rock, the heat growing stronger with each step. He could hear the crowd above, thousands of draken voices raised in anticipation, hungry for spectacle. The tunnel ended at a massive iron gate. Through the bars, Kai could see the arena floor, a circle of black sand 50 meters across. Crystalline walls rose up on all sides, catching the light and throwing it back in sharp, blinding angles. The heat radiating from those walls made the air shimmer like water. "Any last words, human?" the guard asked, not unkindly. Kai adjusted his torn diplomatic uniform and smiled weakly. "I wish I brought sunscreen." The gate rose with a grinding shriek. Kai stepped out onto the burning sand, and the crowd's roar hit him like a physical force. Thousands of draken filled the stands, their scales flashing in the morning sun, their wings beating the air in excitement. He had never felt so small in his entire life. Across the arena, another gate opened. What emerged made Kai's breath catch. The draken warrior was young, probably not much older than Kai in their years, but he was magnificent. His scales were deep emerald green shot through with veins of gold. Muscles rippled under that armored skin as he strode forward. His wings spread wide, casting a shadow across half the arena. This was Zarthok, third son of War Chief Drucker, and he had volunteered for the honor of facing the human. "I am Zarthok of the Flame Clan," he roared, and the crowd screamed their approval. "Today I will show the weakness of humanity." He expected fear. He expected begging. What he got instead was a human boy walking calmly toward the center of the arena, his eyes scanning everything, the walls, the sand, the angle of the sun. "I'm Kai Chun," the human said quietly, though somehow his voice carried. "I'm here because I made a mistake. I'm sorry for that." Zarthok snorted, smoke curling from his nostrils. "Your apologies mean nothing. Only strength matters." He charged, and the crowd went wild. Kai ran, not in blind panic, but with purpose, angling toward one of the crystalline pillars that dotted the arena floor. Zarthok's claws tore through the space where Kai had been standing a second before. The human boy was fast, faster than the draken expected, moving like water between obstacles. "Stand and fight," Zarthok roared, wheeling around for another charge. "Why?" Kai called back, circling behind a pillar. "You're stronger than me. You're faster than me. Direct combat would be suicide." "Then you are a coward." "No," Kai said, studying the way Zarthok moved. "I'm just not stupid." Zarthok lunged again, and again Kai evaded, this time using the reflective walls to track the attack before it came. The crystalline surface showed him Zarthok's shadow, gave him precious seconds to react. The crowd's cheering began to falter, replaced by confused murmuring. "Interesting," Kai said, his voice steady despite his racing heart. "Your scales darken slightly before you breathe fire, and you favor your left side, old injury?" Zarthok froze, genuinely surprised. "How did you—" "I've been watching your people all week. Your biology is fascinating. The way your respiratory system works, the thermal regulation through your scales, the muscle structure that allows flight despite your mass. It's beautiful, really. You study us?" Zarthok's voice held something other than anger now. "Curiosity, perhaps?" "Of course. That's why I came here. To understand you." Zarthok charged again, but this time there was less fury in it, more testing. Kai rolled under the attack, came up running, and the two began a strange dance across the arena floor. The human could not fight, so he survived. He learned the pattern of attacks, anticipated movements, used the terrain like a chessboard. Minutes stretched into an hour. The crowd grew quieter, watching something they had never seen before. This human was not winning. He could never win in a test of strength. But he was not losing either. He was adapting, surviving, thinking 3 steps ahead of every attack. Then Zarthok made a mistake. He struck too hard at a pillar, trying to crush Kai behind it. The crystalline structure shattered, and a sharp fragment sliced across Zarthok's forearm. Dark blood welled up, and the Draken warrior hissed in pain. Kai stopped running. He stood still, staring at the wound. "Your blood," he said softly. "It's highly acidic. If it gets into that cut too deeply, it'll damage the muscle tissue. You need to neutralize it." "What?" Zarthok looked confused, still ready to attack. Kai tore a strip from his uniform, poured water from a drinking station onto it. "Trust me, I'm a xenobiologist. Let me help." Zarthok stared at the human boy, his golden eyes wide with disbelief. The crowd had gone completely silent. In the history of the Dragon Arena, no combatant had ever stopped fighting to help their opponent. It was unthinkable. "You want to heal me?" Zarthok's voice was barely above a whisper. "While we fight." Kai took a careful step forward, holding the wet cloth. "That wound is serious. Your blood is eating through your own tissue. In 10 minutes, you won't be able to use that arm properly. In 20, the damage could be permanent. Then I lose and you win," Zarthok said, confusion thick in his voice. "No," Kai shook his head. "Then you're hurt forever because of mistake. That's not victory. That's just sad." The Draken warrior looked up at the stands. His father, War Chief Drucker, sat in the place of honor, his face unreadable. The matriarch leaned forward, her ancient eyes sharp with interest. No one moved to stop what was happening. Slowly, Zarthok extended his arm. Kai worked quickly, using the water to wash away the acidic blood, then pressing the cloth against the wound. "The problem with your species," he explained as he worked, "is that your blood evolved as a defense mechanism. It protects you from infection, kills parasites instantly, but when you're injured, it becomes your enemy." "How do you know this?" Zarthok asked, watching the human's careful hands. "I read everything I could find about the Draken before I came here. Your physiology is incredible. The way you generate and store heat, how your wings can carry such weight, the efficiency of your metabolism, your evolutionary masterpieces." Zarthok felt something strange. This human spoke of the Draken not with fear or hatred, but with genuine admiration. "You truly believe that?" "Of course." Kai tied off the makeshift bandage. "Every species is remarkable in its own way. That's what makes the universe interesting." The human stepped back, and Zarthok flexed his arm. The pain had already decreased. He looked at Kai with new eyes, seeing not a weak creature, but something he didn't have words for yet. "The crowd expects blood," Zarthok said quietly. "If neither of you falls, they will be unsatisfied. The council will be unsatisfied." Kai glanced up at the thousands of watching Draken. "Then we give them something different. Not a test of who can hurt the other more, but a test of pure will." "What do you mean?" "In human history, we have rituals, tests of endurance. Not about destroying your opponent, but proving your own strength of spirit." Kai walked to where fragments of the shattered crystal pillar lay scattered. He picked up 2 pieces, each about the size of his fist. They were still hot from the morning sun, almost too hot to hold. "We each hold one of these," Kai explained. "We don't fight. We don't move. We just endure. The first one to drop it loses." Zarthok's eyes lit up with understanding. "A test of mental discipline." "Exactly. My people call it the trial of pain. It's not about physical strength. It's about will." The Draken warrior reached down and picked up a crystal fragment. It was hot enough to hurt even through his thick scales. "I accept this challenge." They stood facing each other in the center of the arena. The crowd murmured, confused by this strange turn of events. Matriarch Kesria rose from her seat, her voice carrying across the arena. "What is this, human?" Kai looked up at her, sweat already running down his face from the heat of the crystal in his hands. "A different kind of strength," honored Matriarch. "Not the strength to destroy, but the strength to endure." She settled back into her seat, a strange smile crossing her ancient features. "Continue." The minutes crawled by. The crystal fragments grew hotter as the sun climbed higher. Kai's hands began to blister almost immediately. His thin human skin wasn't made for this kind of punishment. He could smell his own flesh burning, feel tears gathering in his eyes from pain. But he didn't drop it. Zarthok fared better physically, his scales offering some protection. But the heat was still intense, still painful. He watched the human boy across from him, saw the agony written on his face, saw him trembling with the effort of not letting go. "You should drop it," Zarthok said. "Your hands are burning." "So are yours," Kai gasped back. "But I am Draken. We are made for heat and pain. And I'm human." Kai's voice shook but held firm. "We're made for surviving anyway." 5 minutes passed. Then 10. The crowd had gone completely silent now, watching this bizarre contest with growing fascination. Some of the elder Draken were nodding slowly, beginning to understand what they were witnessing. 15 minutes had passed. Both Kai and Zarthok stood trembling, their hands wrapped around the scorching crystal fragments. Kai's vision had started to blur from the pain, but he focused on his breathing, on staying present in the moment. Across from him, Zarthok's scales had shifted to a deep purple, a color Kai had learned meant respect among the Draken. Then the ground shook. At first, Kai thought it was just his exhaustion making him unsteady. But Zarthok's had snapped up, his eyes going wide. The tremor came again, stronger this time. Cracks spiderwebbed across the arena floor. Something's wrong. Zarthok dropped his crystal, and Kai immediately did the same, cradling his burned hands against his chest. The crowd began to stir, confusion rippling through the stands. Then someone screamed. One of the holding pens beneath the arena, the cells where they kept the most dangerous creatures for special exhibitions, had ruptured. Through the widening crack in the arena floor, something massive began to emerge. It was a void serpent. Even Kai, who had only read about them, felt his blood turn to ice. The creature was 10 meters long, covered in black scales that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. It had no eyes, just a massive mouth lined with rows of crystalline teeth. Spines ran along its back, each one dripping with venom that hissed and smoked when it hit the sand. The crowd panicked. Draken were scrambling over each other to get away from the edges of the arena. Even the warriors in the stands looked afraid. Void serpents were apex predators, creatures that hunted in the deepest caves where even Draken feared to go. "The holding pen must have cracked during the earthquakes last week," Zarthok breathed, backing away slowly. "It's been trapped down there, injured and starving." The void serpent emerged fully onto the arena floor, and Kai could see immediately that Zarthok was right. The creature was hurt. One of its spines was broken, and a deep gash ran along its side, infected and oozing. It thrashed wildly, confused by the sudden light and space, striking at everything around it. "Run!" Zarthok grabbed Kai's arm, pulling him toward the nearest exit. But Kai resisted, his eyes locked on the creature. "Wait! Look at its movement pattern. Are you insane? That thing will kill us both." "It's scared," Kai said, his voice taking on that calm, analytical tone that Zarthok was beginning to recognize. "It's in pain and it's terrified. That's why it's attacking randomly. It can't see. It hunts by vibration and heat signature." The void serpent's tail whipped around, smashing into a pillar. The impact sent crystal shards flying like daggers. One sliced across Kai's cheek, but he didn't move. "We have to help it," Kai said. "Help it? It's a void serpent. They're impossible to control." "Nothing is impossible to understand." Kai was already moving, but slowly, deliberately. He stepped carefully, avoiding sudden movements. "Your people must have studied these creatures. How do they calm down?" Zarthok's warrior training warred with his instinct to flee. But something about the human boy's confidence made him think. "Deep vibrations," he said finally. "Low-frequency sounds. It's how mothers call to their young in the deep caves. Can you make that sound?" Maybe. But even if I could, that wound is infected. The pain will override any calming effect." Kai was already tearing more strips from his ruined uniform. "Then we treat the wound first. Can you get its attention? Keep it focused on you while I approach from the side. You want to walk up to a void serpent? With burned hands. Do you have a better idea?" The creature struck again, this time at the gate, where guards were trying to open it to release attack drones. Its tail smashed through the iron bars like paper. In the stands, Matriarch Kesria was shouting orders. but the chaos made coordination impossible. Zarthok looked at Kai, at this small, damaged human who should be cowering in fear. Instead, the boy's eyes were sharp with focus, his mind already several steps ahead. The Draken warrior made a decision. If we die, I'm blaming you in the afterlife. Fair enough. Zarthok moved the creature's front, spreading his wings wide to create a larger heat signature. He began to hum, low and deep, a sound that vibrated through the stone floor. The void serpent's head swung toward him, its mouth opening to reveal those terrible teeth. Kai circled around, moving with painful slowness. Each step was calculated to create minimal vibration. His burned hands throbbed with every heartbeat, but he pushed the pain aside. He had treated injured animals back on Earth, understood that pain made any creature dangerous. The infected wound on the void serpent's side was worse up close. He could see the tissue rotting, could smell the decay. Kai's hand shook as he reached toward the void serpent's infected wound. The creature was still focused on Zarthok's deep humming, but one wrong move would trigger its attack reflexes. He could feel the heat radiating from its body, could hear the rasp of its breathing. "Keep humming," Kai whispered. "Don't stop." He pressed the cloth against the wound, and the void serpent shrieked, a sound like metal tearing that made everyone in the arena cover their ears. It began to thrash, and Kai was thrown backward, landing hard on the burning sand. "Kai!" Zarthok lunged forward, placing himself between the human and the creature. "No, wait!" Kai scrambled to his feet. "It's working. Look." The void serpent had stopped thrashing. Its head swayed back and forth, confused. The pain from the wound had actually decreased when Kai cleaned away the infected material. The creature's primitive brain was processing this new information. "It understands you helped it," Zarthok said, amazement in his voice. All creatures understand kindness on some level. Kai moved forward again, slower this time, even the dangerous ones. He worked quickly now, cleaning the wound as best he could with his limited supplies. The void serpent remained still, its body gradually relaxing. Zarthok continued his deep humming, and slowly, impossibly, the creature began to calm. 20 minutes later, the void serpent lay coiled in the center of the arena, its breathing steady and even. Kai sat beside it, exhausted, his burned hands still bleeding. Zarthok stood guard nearby, ready to act if needed, but the danger had passed. The arena was silent. Thousands of Drakens stared down at the impossible scene, a human boy and a Draken warrior, standing together beside a creature that should have killed them both. Matriarch Kesria rose from her seat and descended to the arena floor. Her movements were slow and deliberate, each step measured. When she reached them, she looked first at Kai, then at Zarthok, then at the sleeping void serpent. "In all my centuries," she said quietly, "I have never seen such a thing." Kai tried to stand, but his legs wouldn't cooperate. He stayed sitting, looking up at the ancient Draken leader. "I'm sorry if I broke more rules." A sound came from her throat that Kai had never heard before. It took him a moment to realize she was laughing. "Broke rules? Child, you have rewritten them." War Chief Drucker joined them, his massive form casting a shadow over Kai. He looked at his son with an expression Kai couldn't read. "Zarthok, you were sent to prove human weakness." "I know, Father." "Instead, you fought beside one. You trusted one. You followed his lead." Zarthok straightened, meeting his father's eyes. "I did, and I learned that strength takes many forms. This human has more courage than warriors twice his size. He has more wisdom than scholars twice his age. If that makes me weak for recognizing it, then I accept that judgment." Drucker was silent for a long moment. Then he turned to Kai. "What is your name, human?" "Kai Chun, War Chief." "Kai Chun," Drucker repeated slowly. "You came to our world as a diplomat. You were sentenced to death for breaking our laws. You should have died a dozen times today. Yet here you sit, having taught us something we did not know we needed to learn." The War Chief reached down and placed one massive clawed hand on Kai's shoulder. "From this moment, you are scale brother to my son and to our clan. Any Draken who questions your strength will answer to me personally." The crowd erupted. Some cheered, some roared their approval. Others simply beat their wings in the traditional salute of respect. Kai felt tears running down his face, mixing with the blood and sweat. Zarthok helped him to his feet. That title has only been given to 3 outsiders in our entire history. I don't know what to say. Say you'll stay. Teach us what you know. Let us teach you our ways. Zarthok's golden eyes were bright. We have been so focused on physical strength that we forgot there are other kinds. You've shown us that in a single morning. Matriarch Kesria spoke to crowd. Let it be known across all Draken worlds. Humanity has proven themselves worthy of respect. Not through violence, not through conquest, but through courage, wisdom, and compassion. These are strengths we must learn to value alongside our own. Ambassador Torres pushed the crowd and wrapped Kai in a careful hug, mindful of his injuries. You crazy, brilliant boy, she sobbed. You actually did it. Kai looked around at the arena, at the Draken who now watched it with respect instead of contempt, at Zarthok, who stood beside him as a friend and brother. I just wanted to understand them, he said softly. And in doing so, the matriarch said, you helped us understand ourselves.